So the way City Hall was built, it really is a cathedral of democracy. It really is just such a powerful space. I remember the first time I walked into it, and when you're under the pyramid, when you feel the sound, you see the light, you see the patterns, you see the orderliness and all of the geometry. It's really just a phenomenal building that we own. We, the city of Edmonton, all Edmontonians, we own that building. It is ours, and it's such a beautiful space. You go there and you see people playing outside, all young people, seniors. You see people playing in the fountains, skating on the rink. You go inside, you see people touring, doing weddings, playing the piano. There's incredible. I've spoken at many graduation ceremonies for whether it's police officers or firefighters or other staff. That space truly is the living room of the city of Edmonton, and it's such a really important space. When you look back at cities around the world, where they put their money matters, right? So you'd see gorgeous cathedrals in certain countries, or gorgeous temples in other countries, and really the fact that Edmontonians had the foresight to invest in creating a space like that captures that gravitas, that you matter in the city, you're a part of the city, you belong in the city, and you really feel it when you go to City Hall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do agree with that. And you go there just once a week, or?
I'm usually 3 days a week in, and then 2 days in the community, or 4 days in the community, I guess.
And is it possible for people to book an appointment with you?
Absolutely, yeah. You so the way it's set up is we have various meeting rooms. Constituents can come in and meet me there. We have bookable spaces. We have a cafe. We have a beautiful grounds that we can walk around and visit. They can come in and watch the council meetings. There's a whole amphitheater design, so citizens can come in on a whim. We could walk there today and go and walk into council chambers and see what's happening, and that's really cool. And you can't always do that in other spaces.
Right.
So you really have you can reach out and touch your democracy, and that's really important.
What I like about City Hall is the fact that community members can book it and use the space for anything or any kind of events that they need. I found that I have seen this happen on so many occasions, even within the 2 weeks that I was working nearby.
Right, and I also experienced it firsthand because one of the choirs that I had a pleasure of working with, they booked the place for a Christmas concert. So it was a non-profit choir performing there for a big audience, and the people were, so you know how the space is quite big. So all the choir's members were on the stairs, and the audience were everywhere on all the levels of the building, just watching and listening to the music. And that makes the building very multi-purpose.
Yeah.
My name is Gene Dubb, and I've been an architect for over 50 years in my own practice, and probably another 5 years prior to that. And it's been a great experience. If I ever had to choose a life, I'd just choose the same life. It's been that enjoyable.
Hi, my name is Michael Janz. I'm the city councillor for Ward Papasteo in the city of Edmonton, and you're watching Habu.
So we're here to primarily talk about the City Hall building, and you've done it, 30 years ago?
The City Hall was finished in 1992. So it's been, I guess, over 30 years. The design went along smoothly, and we designed a building that was sort of continued a classical layout, a formal layout, and that was common to a lot of legislative and government buildings of the time. And we tried to make it more dynamic by treating the facades with these angular windows, which made it look like it had the stability of a tradition of a classical city hall, but at the same time had these dynamic windows showing that it was representing the change required in democracy as well as the stability of a classical building. On top of that, we put in these cone shapes, which were to reflect the indigenous population and the indigenous history in this area prior to Western civilization coming in. And there was quite an outcry about these cone shapes. One was they felt it misrepresented Edmonton as an indigenous city and didn't give it the balance of all the populations involved. Another concern was that it looked like dunce hats and it would be made fun of. And a third thing was at that time, 3 Mile Island had their meltdown, and our cones looked very much like the 3 Mile Island power plants. And that was a third outcry. The result of all that is council sent us back and said, what can we do? We like the plan, we like everything, but there's a bad reaction towards these cone shapes. So we had to search around and find something which we felt represented Edmonton and at the same time satisfied the democratic opinions of various people. It was much to our chagrin that we had to leave the cones because we were quite attached to them. The shape we came up with was an asymmetrical pyramid, symmetrical from the front but asymmetrical from the side, and something that reflected the mountains beyond the prairies. The buildings being low, flat buildings with Tyndall stone, prairie stone, and the pyramids up above it. So that was found acceptable, and so that's how we ended up with the shape we ended up with. And it took quite a few years for it to be built. It was 1993, I believe, that was open, 1992 or 1993.
So in the original plan, the roof consist of cones, or was it still a pyramid?
What it was there were several cone shapes on the original, and they were replaced by pyramid shapes, and we ended up with 2 pyramids, one over the council chamber and one over the city room. The outstanding feature, I think, of the city hall was the city room. No city hall in Canada, or anywhere as far as we knew, had a big city room, which we put into the design. And that city room was added later. It wasn't part of the program. And it was added later and, of course, increased the cost. So that, again, became another controversial item. But the city room has been the greatest, the most successful part of City Hall. It was, even during the opening, there was a thunderstorm, and suddenly everybody vacated the opening at the outdoors, ran into City Hall, and the performers and the City Edmonton Symphony Orchestra, everybody somehow just rearranged themselves in a hurry, and it turned out to be just a glorious kind of celebration for the opening.
Right. And to the day, the space is used for different
The
sort
space is in such great demand. The pandemic has slowed things down. The space was used like over 100 times a year, but the pandemic has slowed and changed a lot of things. You now have security issues, and so a few things have changed with City Hall.
Right. Yeah. So, question to that. So, the previous city hall was demolished after around 50 years, less than 50 years of use, right? It was in
Yeah,
19... When was that, this first city hall built?
it would have
Was
been
it
about
the-
50 years ago.
Right. So, question here is, do you believe that this city hall will last longer than 15 years? And if so,
Well,
why?
that's the whole, 50 years isn't long for an important building. So it's now been 30, and it's still finding its feet, I think, City Hall. And so I expect it to last at least 100 years and hopefully more.
What particular parts of it make it be useful to the city for longer than 50 years? Because my understanding is that the previous city hall was single use pretty much. There was like offices, and I'm not sure it was as much as for the city as much as it was the city council.
Yeah.
So what are the particular aspects of this
Well,
new city hall?
The previous City Hall was an administrative City Hall and too small for the administration, and it was standard offices. The city did a wise thing by making it a legislative City Hall that only dealt with government functions, council, the offices of the councillors and the mayor, the city manager and city clerk, and only the very required administration for the legislators. So it's much like the provincial legislative building. I mean, the provincial government has hundreds of thousands of square feet of offices throughout the province, but all legislation happens at the legislative buildings. Well, this is like a civic legislative building. And that aspect doesn't change very much. So I think that the City Hall will be able to serve the city for 100 years.
And do you still think that it represents the Edmonton as it is today?
Well, very much, because if you want to demonstrate or you want to do anything which shows your interest in the city room is where you go. And that works really, really well. City Hall was interesting in a lot of ways. There was a tower that went up. The budget wouldn't allow for it, but we had Chamber of Commerce got together and they pulled everyone together and they built this tower with the funds. They call it the Friendship Tower. And we had a visitor from Hong Kong who was a feng shui expert. And he said, this building will never be successful because it's like a crab with one claw. And so I think 30 years that it's been there have proven them wrong, but we'll see. Maybe in 50 years we'll change our minds.
Interesting analogy of one-clawed crab. If you were to redo this building today, would there be anything different that you would do?
One of the things that's really changed, and I don't know how it would change the building, but one of the things that's changed is our reliance on the internet. It's amazing how many meetings now take place virtually rather than in real life. You might have a whole setup where virtual meetings would be done from City Hall. Now you don't even have to go to City Hall. To attend a council meeting, you do it through television now or through your computer screen. I'm not yet sure that that would influence the design of City Hall. I think you still have to provide a place where people can get together face to face. But there is less of that happening now, and I don't know what effects that'll have on government in general. One of the other things we did is we tried to connect the east side and the west side with pedestrian corridors, and we're connected to LRT in so many ways. And now those connections aren't used to the degree that I thought they would be used. Part of that, there is the number of people coming downtown is not as great as it used to be.
Yeah.
And I think that we'd hope that those halls, like say the hall that connects the City Room and Churchill Square, we expected that to be a busy hall. It's now not very busy, we find, you know.
Yeah.
And security has to be much higher. We designed this to be open 24 hours and at all times of the year. It turns out that there is a concern now about security. Things are happening in the LRT lines and in City Hall that we didn't anticipate. And now you have to have people checking in through a metal detector before you go into the City Room.
Just did that
That's
today.
something we really didn't anticipate. And it's too bad because we made the City Room open in such a way that it could be approached from 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 locations around the City Room. Now those are all closed off and you can only have one access point,
Yeah.
which is a reflection of where our society has gone recently. And I don't know if it's going further in that direction or if we're going to come back to a more open council chamber and City Room.
Yeah. Well, I'm obviously hoping for an open space. Is there anything else that you wanted to ask that I haven't asked yet? Okay. I think you covered a lot of good stuff.
Some of the things that are interesting about City Hall you don't really notice. One is there's a radial arm that we built over the City Room. It's sort of hidden, but it can swing out in front of over the City Room so that you can do window washing, decorations, and we found in analyzing the cost of window washing that this was cheaper than building a great big scaffolding, making the City Room unusable for a week while you wash the windows.
Right.
And I think it's not appreciated, but they should leave it hanging right over the City Hall, the City Room, like an animal. You know?
I got a sneak peek of it today.
We saw it today?
I saw it today.
Oh.
And I didn't know that it was like built into the building itself. I thought that they had like installed it because they wanted to clean the windows, but we should go back and film it.
Wait, is it inside?
It was actually used primarily, it was to wash windows.
Right. It's so if you're facing out,
Yeah.
right, we were sitting on the steps.
Yeah.
You could see a hint of it, like right on top, right where the triangle.
I could have filmed it. It might be.
You should have management swing it out for you.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll ask them to clean the windows for us.
Yeah. I think they would do that.
Multi-purpose. Yeah,
Multi-purpose.
that's a
Yeah.
good word to
And
describe it.
that is what Gene Dub was intending.
Yes.
As we saw in the interview, that he didn't want just a building that would be just solely for government workers, but rather for the people as well. And I think he succeeded with that as well.
I agree, especially with the fountains up front. I find that so many kids and just people in general love to play around in that fountain when it's
Yeah.
open during the summer. And free skating during the winter.
Ice rink during the
Ice
winter.
rink, yeah.
Is it free rental as well? I think it is.
I'm pretty sure, yes.
And on some days you can get free hot chocolate as well because
Delicious.
It was designed to be an ice rink. That didn't just happen. And the fountain now has been redone and redone well. Fountain is, I think, one of the most exciting parts of City Hall.
I really like how it's made for the community in that way. And I feel like the facade of the building, the fact that it's very open and has a lot of windows, a lot of natural sun, and the sort of connection to the outdoors has that openness. It's reflected in the way that it is built.
that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. If anyone is looking for, we went there during the day. The sun was kind of like high up, and the shadows that the windows would create were spectacular. It was
They
like,
were beautiful,
yeah, very
yes.
beautiful. And yeah, if you just pay attention to the details within the building, you will notice like there are a lot of those. There are like, for example, the I believe it's the stone that's used for the flooring, and some parts of the walls were repurposed from the previous building.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what Jean Depp was explaining.
Yeah.
Which is a nice way of remembering the older City Hall. Of course, they did choose to demolish the older building.
Yeah, because it wasn't fit for the city of the time anymore.
Yeah. It didn't reflect the identity and the purpose that they were trying to achieve.
Which is hopefully different with this city hall. It was built in 1992 or opened in 1993. So it's, what is it, 30 years? A bit over 30 years.
32 years.
Yes. So the previous one was demolished in less than 50 years of use, and everybody's hoping that the building is going to last for another at least 70 years, make it to a century. That is a common theme that I noticed within the city, that often the buildings that the city creates end up being destroyed very soon. And this way we have like this constant construction going everywhere,
And it's not sustainable.
So our podcast really focuses on how the surroundings, the city affects the people. And you not recently, I don't know, when did you move to Garneau?
I've lived in Gardner off and on the last 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Garneau is very friendly for pedestrians, bike lanes, and it's pretty much the 15-minute city. How do you think neighborhoods affect the general life of people, the families, the kids?
How we build our neighborhoods is critical to the affordability, the accessibility, and that welcoming feeling that you have in the city. I like to say Garneau's not a 15-minute city at all. It's actually a 3-minute city. If I want a loaf of bread, if I need eggs, if I need milk, if I need a doctor, if I need a haircut, if I need a lawyer, if I need to buy clothing, anything, it's not even 15 minutes. It's less than 5 minutes. So that is the kind of community that allows people to drive less, to save money on car insurance, to save money on gas, to get to know their neighbors, to go outside. This is the kind of city that people go to visit. They go on vacation to places like Italy or France or Montreal or Tokyo, and they say, wow, why can't, this is amazing. How do people live like this? Why can't we have this at home? Well, we can. It just requires a few design changes, and we're getting there. We're moving there, and we're trying to enact new policies that, whether it's daycare, we're allowing more daycares more often. For many young families, that's one of the first things they do in the morning. They have to get in the car to take their kids to daycare because there's not a daycare in their neighborhood. Well, we're trying to change that, so more daycares are allowed in more neighborhoods. That means you can drive a little less. We're trying to add more grocery stores. We're trying to add more amenities. We're trying to make it that we don't have, this is a housing neighborhood, this is a commercial district. We're trying to add a sensible blending of the two. Obviously, we don't want industrial manufacturing beside a residential home, but maybe there's some other functions, especially some white-collar jobs or other opportunities, that we could blend into the neighborhood a little better.
That brings up an interesting topic. So you said how you're trying to increase the amount of amenities within the neighborhoods, but at the same time, how do we preserve the historic historic aspects of the
Yeah.
city. And yes, like density is really great for the city, but at the same time, I can understand people who, they live in their house and then suddenly across the road there is
Yeah.
construction of larger housing. So it has to be some sort of balance between preserving and also
Yeah.
what's the word?
Yeah, like the growth and
Density
adaptive.
and So how do we approach that?
I think it's sometimes not just a question of density, yes or no, but a question of how and what's being built. I like the saying. It's not what you take away, it's what you leave behind. And I think we have some great examples in Edmonton where we have had architects and we've had builders who have preserved parts of the edifice, whether it still has that historic brick or it still has that feel. So when you're at the ground level, you really feel that historic nature. So companies like Belgen and others have done some really creative projects. Like if you go around White Avenue, there's great examples of this. The other thing too is that we don't have the same historic buildings the way some cities like Montreal have, where it might be 400 years old.
Yeah.
We have some buildings that were built in the post-war period that were built quick, fast, and not meant to last. And so as those are coming down, because they are, it's a question of design quality, build quality. Just because something's old doesn't necessarily mean it's historic. So there's some pieces I think we absolutely want to preserve and lean into and note because they're rare and they're exceptional. There's other pieces where I think as a city we need to adapt and grow and change because like it or not, the world is changing. Climate change is changing our cities. We're dealing with more extreme weather. We're dealing with more immigration and more influx of population. So we as a city, if we don't grow and adapt, what's going to happen is we're going to continue urban sprawl. The people who do not live here are going to live there, and they're going to be ripping up wetland. They're going to be tearing up farmland. They're going to be ripping up our city and bankrupting us both financially and sustainably into the future.
It's quite an interesting aspect of it because for the last 100 years, people become more urban, but at the same time, the cities expand so much that you're urban, that you're so far away from the city itself.
Yeah. I think sometimes people say like, oh, well, I don't like density. And it's like, that's not the question. It's a question of we are growing. Are we going to grow towards Red Deer or are we going to grow a little bit inwards? And should we be growing around train stations or downtown? Or we've invested in these areas called the priority growth areas. So the LRT lines, downtown, U of A, those are the areas as a city where we really want to grow and provide more opportunity. The two biggest crises facing our city are the housing crisis and the climate crisis. Our auditor does a risk assessment of factors that are vulnerabilities for the city of Edmonton and identified climate change as one of the top factors, be it flooding, be it extreme weather events, be it whatever's going to come down in future. So we know that having spaces that protect people from extreme heat, extreme weather, extreme cold, building in resiliency to our buildings, that's critical. And when we can reduce automobile dependency, when we can give people more housing choices and more transportation choices, that increases our resiliency. Those are protective factors that mean that even if you live in an area where you're not dependent on a car in the morning, people often like to say, well, how do you ride your bike at minus 40? The last time it was minus 40, my car didn't even stop. So if we don't have dependable, reliable public transit, we're all vulnerable.
Yeah.
So being able to create a community and a city with more districts and spaces where you can do things more often closer to home, not all the time, but if you can do more things more often closer to home, that increases the money in your pocket. That's less money on gas. That helps address the affordability crisis. That helps address the housing crisis. It gives people more flexibility in where they can work, especially people who are in precarious employment, who might be low-wage earners. It's good for everybody. Walkable communities should not just be reserved for the rich people who can afford them. All of us deserve to live in a community where we can walk to our daily needs, where we can have more choices. Kids deserve to be able to be safe on the street, whether they're riding a bike or they're out walking. It's when we build a city that's built to facilitate the speed of cars and cars alone, that shortchanges all of us.
I do have a question about the chevron motif and like the triangle motif that's on the ground outside of City Hall as well. It's like, why did you choose to have that shape all everywhere?
Well, that was kind of interesting because we used a lot of material from the old City Hall. The pylons in front is Swedish granite that we used from the old City Hall. The councillors' offices are a green marble that we used from the old City Hall. And the floor is the white travertine marble that we used from the north and the south side of City Hall. So we took a piece of travertine and we scored it and broke it so it became kind of a ragged edge. And so you can see if you look closely, the design is quite complicated. You've got to get down to the third floor and look down to see the way it interlocks. And you'll notice that the travertine is sometimes lighter, sometimes darker. And that's because the travertine on the south side of the old City Hall was sun-bleached, whereas the travertine from the north side was a darker color. And so, and then what happened is they told us how much travertine there was. When they opened the boxes, it appears that somebody had disappeared with some of the travertine. So we had, I think it was a firm with mostly Italian terrazzo people, about 50 of them, working all night to meet our deadline. They opened the box and we had to change the pattern as they're working on it because there wasn't enough travertine to complete our pattern.
Right.
So it was pretty exciting getting those travertine pieces to look good, and I think it turned out wonderfully.
But more personal question, what is architecture to you?
Well, architecture to me is making life better for people. And some buildings are more important, some not as critical. We do a lot of housing, and I love housing. I think it's very important. Also, I think that the symbolic importance of architecture is important. We right now have converted a hospital to housing, the Charles Camsell Hospital.
The city of Edmonton has been trying to revitalize the downtown area. The city might have made some mistakes in the past with demolishing buildings and pushing away the businesses and people away. But there's definitely a good attempt right now in bringing people back in. And one of those attempts was the LRT extension into downtown and Churchill Square. And I guess now it's going to WEM, which is already bringing in more people there from, I think it goes towards the Millwoods and maybe past. So that by itself is a really good step towards bringing more people, let's say even to the Churchill Square, which again, as we mentioned before, can host and does host a lot of festivals, a lot of events. And the City Hall by itself also does host a lot of events for the citizens.
Bringing people together.
The more the city works with the citizens, the safer, the better, the more inviting the space feels. So the city building is always a kind of sort of communication with the people.
Yeah.
Right? Because if the city just builds buildings without asking what people are wanting, then it's not going to be used. It's not going to be very pleasant for the people. That's why when the City Hall was being built, as Jean mentioned, there was a big back and forth between the architect of the city and the people, because everybody had to come to one agreement on what the space is supposed to be.
I always feel sorry for whoever has to do the edits.
It's us. That's okay.
Outtakes.